here in our part, what if Goku and Vegeta were trapped inside the Divine Time? Now we're seeing the current events occurred. As if I was trying to prepare ourselves for the battle with the gods or happened. Of course, Goku and Vegeta achieved new levels of transformation. With their new levels of power being incredible, it's bold and we could be impressed by their power. Goku was actually shocked at how powerful they have become. Stronger they can actually be. Their Super Saiyan transformation with anything they learned. I like a divine technique form. They are a new level of power. Even Goku actually feel emotions while thing. While not need to do differently. And Vegeta can also feel were actually less than expected. He doesn't thirst to battling. He just feels his normal originally, like in his Super Saiyan. As well. He gets emotion, but also doesn't actually weaken him, but instead it makes him stronger. It's impressive and eventually decide both of them to out their powers. Though eventually couple minutes past both their body scream in agony and strain that the transformation did to their bodies. As they realized that their body was not strong enough to endure this transformation, it seems like it was too much for them. It can only hold for at least a couple minutes at best. Then he decided to recover some ki and eventually continue battling. Deciding to basically trying to stack a much higher level of Kaioken on their Ultra forms, believing that maybe with this they were actually able to maintain their transformation for way longer and also able to endure it. Eventually, after around 10 to 20 years, they both were able to achieve a level of 150 times Kaioken, which was very impressive, since both of them were focused on increasing their Kaioken levels and also increasing their base state. And eventually, they will begin to power up once again, eventually go back to those transformation. They're both pretty impressed as they can actually feel the power. They can tell that it's not full power, probably around 8 to 10%. It seems that this is their limit currently, but they can tell that with this power they're also able to beat the God of Destruction. They're not an angel just yet. They're close, but not there yet. They can tell with these transformations they can easily defeat a God of Destruction, probably even match an angel one-on-one, but if they were to face all the angels, they'll most likely be overwhelmed easily. So they want to master this transformation first, or probably go into even higher levels. Since Goku believes that if the angels were basically involved in his betrayal, it most likely means that the Grand Priest will most likely join in to protect his children, and Vegeta agrees. So they decide to continue to train, increase their powers, and eventually continue the cycle of regaining their ki and constantly training themselves, increasing their powers further and further. Hundreds of years will pass, and Goku and Vegeta will decide to basically use transformation as their new base state, utilizing Super Saiyan Blue 3 as their new base forms. Eventually, when they do run out of ki, they're able to recover even the smallest amounts of ki to transform into Super Saiyan God due to their master order of transformation. Super Saiyan God was actually a very beneficial form that they had, since due to their mastering the form after over 500 years ago, this one can now basically grant them small amounts of immortality and regeneration. Though due to them already having immortality, the immortality part was basically useless, but the regeneration part was much more better since it can actually recover their ki by absorbing the ki around them or basically just replenishing them in the time they stay in the form, which is very beneficial for both of them. This means that they will recover even faster and train even harder as well. Eventually, they were able to increase the level of power that they originally possessed, with them actually able to accomplish 50% of the transformation's powers. They're able to utilize it after around 50 to 30 years. Though this was a progress for now, as the more they try to increase the percentage, the more it got even harder, as they realized it will most likely take a really long time to master it, since it does has the weaknesses of the original Super Saiyan. So, even the weaknesses of the original Ultra forms, which is the massive drawback. In the form itself is kind of unstable until they master it, though it's incredibly powerful. And with 50%, they believe that they can take down an angel all by themselves if they were to face it one-on-one. But if they were to face all angels, it will most likely struggle, but they're easily able to do some bruises or even injuries to them if it comes to a combined battle. Though with the Gods of Destruction also joining, it will most likely be difficult for both of them to keep up. So they want to master this level and possibly even go beyond it, so they can deal with all the angels and God's destruction, probably even the Grand Priest himself. While back outside, Whis would sense the immense energy coming from the divine time chamber. Of course, Whis would be surprised, even confused. But eventually, after he looks deeper into his style inside the divine time chamber, you see Goku and Vegeta train and even see their new forms. Whis was shocked and even impressed. Goku and Vegeta have been training for over 2,000 years of now, making it so that their training was basically immense, and Whis was already impressed. In just 2,000 years, they were able to achieve a level of an angel. This is something that Whis himself never expected, but it seems like Goku and Vegeta's motivation was enough to keep them going further and further, and Whis was very impressed, really happy about his students. But also, he realized that the Z Fighters back on Earth did utilize the Dragon Balls to make Goku and Vegeta immortal, which is the reason why they can actually keep up for such a long time, though Whis was happy about it. And actually asked his lord if he's ready to train. Beerus now tells him that he already had enough of a nap, so he's ready to train with Whis. Eventually, Whis summons the Pyramid Power and tells Beerus that they'll be training until then. Beerus nods and eventually goes on the Pyramid Power with Whis. As Whis has a calm look, but also outside the Rachel 1, as he remembers what his siblings made him do. While back on Earth, both Piccolo, Gohan, Goten, and Trunks would have been gone to Yajra for a couple of days. In those couple of days, they're able to master some spirit control techniques, also able to learn instant transmission, and of course, spirit vision as well. Of course, spirit vision would have been a much more tricky part, but they were able to basically get it down. Piccolo would have decided to learn healing so he can basically be a much more of a use, alongside not wasting any of his ki to regenerate, since it will most likely be much more beneficial for him. And Gohan was able to master instant transmission thanks to Piccolo's help, and alongside to Hybrid Saiyans. They were able to master instant transmission and eventually return to Earth. Of course, then he was surprised to actually see him utilize the instant transmission. But of course, Gohan asked in Dragon Balls already. Then they, of course, tells Gohan that they're ready, and he has also added a much more better upgrade to them. And now, they're actually not as much limitations as Shenron actually had before. Of course, Gohan asked of what limitations that Shenron possesses right now or currently. Of course, then they explains that Shenron can basically revive a person not just 3 times, but probably even 6 times as of now with the new upgrade. And even probably even make someone immortal, or probably even more people immortal. He can also revive people which have been dead for over 10 years as well, and many more things. Of course, Gohan is very impressed by the upgrade as well, since he can tell that Shenron has become incredibly powerful. Eventually, when he do summon the Eternal Dragon, a massive weather change would have occurred around the entire planet, with of course some of the humans being shocked as they countered fear. Of course, all the Z-Fighters would be in shock. Just summoning Shenron made this type of chaos before? They never expected that the Eternal Dragon grew that strong due to upgrades. Then they explains that he did upgrade Shenron a lot when both Gohan, Piccolo, Goten, and Trunks were on Yajra, so he did his best to basically make Shenron as strong as possible, saying that he's even stronger than Paronga as well. Of course, everyone was shocked to even hear that, since they know that Paronga is incredibly powerful, but to saying that Shenron was even stronger than him currently right now was a much more bigger shock to them than they ever expected. Of course, Gohan has to get ready, and eventually asks Shenron to grant him his wish. Of course, Shenron asks what his wish is, and Gohan tells him to bring all the God Ki, which has been scoured by Goku and Vegeta due to their training over around the Earth alongside the entire galaxy, to him. Of course, Shenron with his new upgraded power, he is able to gather not just Ki from around the galaxy of Universe 7, but all around the entire universe itself. Everyone is shocked as they feel the immense power from the Eternal Dragon, and eventually he gives it to Gohan, and that instantly makes Gohan a Super Saiyan God. Gohan is impressed by the power, even more, as he can feel the pure amounts of God Ki within his body. It's incredible. He is shocked, and eventually Shenron tells him that he basically poured the entire God Ki he was able to find around the entire Universe 7 into Gohan. So, with his current transformation, he should be at least at the level of Goku when he was utilizing the Super Saiyan God against Jiren in the tournament power. Of course, Gohan is impressed as he has this type of level of power as a Super Saiyan God, and he is very impressed and thanks Shenron. And of course, Piccolo comes next, and eventually he has Shenron to unlock his potential. Shenron with ease is able to grant Piccolo's potential, and eventually Piccolo feels an immense rushing power within his body. He is shocked to feel this overwhelming power. Of course, Shenron explaining that due to his new upgrade, he is able to unlock Piccolo's potential to way further heights than he ever expected. Saying that if he didn't have his upgrades as early as he did right now, he most would have given him a little bit something to give him a side boost to keep up with Gohan, but just able to upgrade and even unlock his potential has made even further than expected. And Piccolo was impressed as he could feel that his powers increased immensely. Even though he feels like he can transform, just in his base form, he feels like he can actually take on Gohan as a Super Saiyan 3 with ease. And he is very impressed, I think, Shenron. While eventually everyone would have asked about Goku and Vegeta, eventually someone would explain to them how Goku and Vegeta have achieved new levels of power never seen before, even showing an image of the two of them achieve these forms. Of course, no one is shocked, but they're pretty impressed by Goku and Vegeta continuing to break their limits, and they're very impressed. Eventually, the survivors would have again entered inside time chamber, getting ready to fight once again, and then they would have upgraded as well, making it so 3 years will pass inside a time chamber for one day, making it way better, alongside needing at least half less food to survive inside, which was more than beneficial since there will be tons and tons of food. Eventually, Gohan went inside the train with Piccolo, Goten, and Trunks. It was test out his Super Saiyan God transformation. Piccolo would also achieve a new transformation, achieving his orange form. He would not get his yellow form, instead he would just go on full out with an orange form to basically start upgrading his potential to a maximum. And with this form, Piccolo can actually keep up with Gohan and his Super Saiyan God. Even with Gohan's intense training, Piccolo's power is way further than even Gohan ever expected. Even as a Super Saiyan God, Gohan is actually able to keep up with Piccolo, but Piccolo is far beyond Gohan's power currently. But he can tell that Gohan will likely get close to his power. But he can tell that with his power currently, he'll most likely able to take on Goku and Vegeta when they faced against Moro, which is saying something since they were incredibly powerful back then. And for Piccolo to say this, it most likely means a lot. Of course, both Goten and Trunks would have also trained with them, even though they're not on the same level as both Piccolo and Gohan, they were still able to train and eventually continue to increase their powers. And due to them still being stuck in Master Super Saiyan, at least they can actually increase their power levels in their base forms, which was still very impressive. But eventually, the entire time chamber was filled with God Ki. Due to intense training with both Gohan and Piccolo, both of them were actually releasing large amounts of Ki. With Gohan also releasing large amounts of God Ki, and Piccolo was able to absorb bits of it, but the other bits were actually absorbed by both Goten and Trunks. And eventually Gohan sends an overwhelming amounts of God Ki, as he's shocked. Of course, their training still continued as they trained for over 10 years inside. And eventually Gohan feels the immense God Ki actually starting to gather this time, as he felt that the Dancho was actually getting filled with God Ki because of him. But he actually feel it being transmitted from two locations. And eventually he glances and sees both Goten and Trunks in Super Saiyan God. That's right, both of them have able to basically absorb the God Ki around them for over the straight 10 years of training that they had with both Piccolo and Gohan. And they were able to transform to Super Saiyan God due to their overwhelming training, able to push their bodies to their limits. Of course, Gohan was very impressed by the two of them, saying that they most likely be the youngest Super Saiyan gods he has ever seen before, as he's very impressed by them. Eventually, Goten decides to ask Gohan if they can test out their powers at Gohan. Gohan smiles and tells them that they can, as he powers Super Saiyan God. Eventually, both Goten and Trunks would have fought against Gohan. At first, they would be easily overwhelmed by Gohan, as he was still stronger and much more experienced with Super Saiyan God than both of them combined. But eventually, Trunks says to Goten to team up together, and Goten follows his lead as he starts to actually overwhelm Gohan. Gohan realizes that he was actually on the back foot. Even though he is Master Super Saiyan God, his level of power was still not matched for two Super Saiyan gods who has been trained with him. So it was very difficult. But eventually Gohan had to show them something. And eventually begins to roar. As his roar pushes both of them back. As the aura begins to intensify. As once Crimson aura begins to turn blue as Gohan's eyes explode. And instantly he becomes a Super Saiyan Blue, showing his new level of power. Piccolo smiles and can already tell that Gohan was indeed hiding something from him, as he crosses his arm. Of course, Gohan tells Piccolo that he has not had mastery over Super Saiyan Blue, though he did feel that he can achieve it after some time. And those straight 10 years of worth of training were that needed time to unlock it, and he was very impressed by his level of power currently. He's also easily able to overwhelm both Goten and Trunks, and eventually after the two of them wake up, Goten congratulates the two of them, and saying that the two have made overwhelming progress, more than he ever expected, and he is proud of the two of them. The boys are happy, and eventually they exit the time chamber, eventually getting some food from Boma, and Boma would have also explained that she finally created the gadgets so they can increase the gravity on their bodies by over 100,000 times. Of course, Gohan was grateful and thanks Boma. Eventually, they would return into the time chamber, and eventually, after 5 years with their training inside the time chamber, Gohan was able to master the Super Saiyan Blue, and both Goten and Trunks were able to master the Super Saiyan God transformation. Gohan was also able to stack his mystic form on top of his Super Saiyan Blue, making it even stronger because of the mastery. Both and Trunks were also able to utilize Super Saiyan 3 God in their fused state, though they cannot utilize it in their normal stages without being fused. While in another universe, we will see it as Hard was preparing his subordinates so they can gather just enough energy for the Universal Seed. Of course, he smiled to himself, saying that the plan is going smoothly, while Cumber asks him if he's just gonna think his monologue over, since he's very tired of him waiting. Of course, Hard tells Cumber that everything will go as smoothly as he expects, but Cumber can tell him that the last time that he said that, they almost died, and he hopes that Hard does not repeat that mistake, since he needs to fight someone strong so he can get his power back. Since it's been so long that he has been finding out who the challenger around those places and its timeline. Of course, Hard tells him that he can tell that the people here are incredibly strong, so he doesn't have to worry about it. And Cumber tells him that it better be, or he will kill him himself. Of course, Hard sure slightly, but tells Cumber to not worry much. Cumber just sighs and tells Hard to get moving. And this is the end for this part, guys. Hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Sayonara.